back. Thanks for riding with us this morning. You're listening to America's Voice now. I hope that you are, well, let's see, I'll jump to our map. I see some folks over there in Minneapolis watching us this morning. See some folks over in San Diego this morning. See some folks out there in Maine. See some folks down in Florida. Lots of local folks around in the Midwest. Got some folks down in Texas. You know, it's amazing how we have gotten an audience that expands over the course of the country, because I'm not quite sure how they all find us, but they do. Our website, you know, probably taps on average about 5,000 people per month that come in. These are unique visitors, right? We get about 5,000 people a month that come to americasvoicenow.org, and they are reading stories and articles that we've got up there. They're watching videos and what have you. And, you know, the goal of what we do is to try to bring new people into the awakening world of where the country's at. If you're in an area where, you know, you're not in our broadcast footprint, by all means, please share it with your friends, because it helps us to gather more and more and more audience that can hear what we have to talk about. Catch it, you know, you can introduce them to it via YouTube or directly on the website. Every morning after we're done with the radio program, we put it up on YouTube, we put it up on Facebook, and we put it up on our website. They're there for your leisure, because I get it. Not everybody can be around from 8 to 10 Central and go and listen live. I get it. So the goal is basically share it with your friends, educate and inform yourselves, and work within your own circle of influence to try to bring about a broader knowledge and an awakening of everybody around us. Because, folks, time is very, very short. We are seeing our country slide into very, very dangerous territory. Part of that is this push for immigration that really offers nothing to the American people, will cost us a fortune, and will dilute our electorate, and it will dilute our sovereignty as a nation. And one of the things that I'm the most upset about is how corporate America is ganging up against America, the same country that allowed them to be great, allowed them to be successful. And they're doing it just for cheap labor. I mean, it's betrayal of the highest order for the cheapest price. Really is disgusting. They don't stand up for us when our rights are being ripped apart. I mean, perfect example is, and I've done entire programs about this, the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security are capturing the data off of their electronic devices when they cross borders in the United States. So your executives, you know, their laptops and all of their electronic communications that's corporately related are being downloaded essentially by the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security. All of the corporate secrets are exposed. And they don't stand up for that. They won't stand up for us. But what they will stand up for is trying to get immigration passed so that they can get cheap labor. Meanwhile, they're firing literally hundreds of thousands of Americans and laying them off, saying, we can't afford to have this many employees because our business is collapsing. Money's tight. Inflation's up. There's not as many people staying at the hotel or eating at the restaurant. There's not as many folks buying our widget. So our revenues are down, therefore we've got to lay you off. Then the first thing they do as soon as you walk out of the office is pick up the phone and call a congressman and say, get that immigration passed so we can get some cheap labor in here, will you? What do you think we're paying you for over there? I rest my case. Worse yet, evangelical pastors are being brought into this fold. And I got to tell you, I reserve a special level of disdain. I reserve a special level of disgust for clergy who will betray their own constituency, their flock, for money or politics. There is a group, and this is an article in Bloomberg. I'm going to send it's available on our website. It'll be available in the bottom of this video link. Evangelical pastors, corporate leaders, elected Republican officials, and small government activists arrived in Washington to lobby lawmakers to revamp U.S. immigration policy before year end. The conservative fly-in will involve 600 people and include personal meetings with at least 80 Republican members of Congress. And here's my problem with this. A lot of these people aren't lobbying to block immigration. They're lobbying for immigration. Here's a couple of the quotes. There's a guy, Terry Noose, a state representative from Norwalk, Ohio, excuse me. He wants to talk to John Boehner. I'd like to tell him and anyone else from Ohio who will listen to think of immigration in terms of jobs, especially for our state's agricultural industry. Immigration is all about the economy. I think many of my fellow conservatives get that. Excuse me, Mr. Booz, or Ms. Booz, I don't know where, Terry. Let me tell you something. Immigration is not about jobs, and it's not about the economy. What immigration is about is the loss of sovereignty in our nation. It is all about your getting inexpensive help while laying millions of Americans off. It's all about expanding the dependency mentality in this country that you and your ilk have fostered. And I got to tell you, you are betraying, like Judases, for 30 pieces of immigration silver, your states, your churches, your nation. We have no idea what the cost of this immigration will be, but we know it's going to be massive. We know that it's going to cost us in our health care. We know that it's going to cost us in our prison and our criminal justice system. We know that it's going to cost us in our schools. We know that it's going to dilute our ability to look at the United States as a sovereign nation that takes pride in where it came from. Its history is being hidden. Its schools and its children are being exposed to the idea that globalization and lack of borders is the right mentality, and it's not. And it never has been, and it never will be. I encourage you to find out if your minister, your clergyman, your pastor, your priest, your rabbi is asking for you to take a stand to approve immigration. Why must we have it now? Hurried up, comprehensive, massive, when we've had this problem for the last 50 years. Why must we do it in a rush? And why must we do it comprehensively? Do it piecemeal. And here's my recommendation. And I've said this 1,000 times to those who are regular listeners. No immigration bill until the borders are independently verifiably sealed. When those borders are sealed, and when all illegal immigrants, whether they be extended visa overstays or whether they be border violators, who came across on foot or on horseback or on the back of a crocodile for all I care, but everyone who is here illegally has stepped forward during a window of registration and said, I am here illegally, I am coming out of the shadows, and I am willing to be subjected to whatever it takes for me to become a U.S. citizen. However, whether that's a green card for a decade until I show myself approved. Okay. No immigration bill until the border is independently, verifiably sealed. And all immigrants have registered. After that, we can have any discussion you want. But until you stop the bleeding, until the blood stops flowing, the body is about to die. No more open border, no more turning our heads and looking away. The DHS, which is in charge of ICE and immigration, let me tell you something. The ICE and immigration folks are dead set against this. The media is not telling you that, but if you look out there in alternative media and you look at what ICE is telling you, they are going to be very, 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 very clear about their position. They are being forced to break the law by this administration. This administration is saying, do not act on the law. And ladies and gentlemen, that is malfeasance in office. The president's first and foremost goal is to execute faithfully the laws and the Constitution of the United States of America. And he does not have the right, as a dictator, to ignore those laws that he doesn't want to enforce and then manufacture other laws that he says as a declaration we should follow. We don't have a dictator. This is a republic. And we have a president who's accountable to you and me. Now, the push is on. And in fact, it's getting so bad that the immigrants are actually blocking deportation buses by sit-ins. They're turning to very, very aggressive attempts to resolve this in their favor, including civil disobedience. So I've got to ask you, America, if the people who want this because it's good for them are willing to engage in civil disobedience, why aren't you? Why aren't you willing to engage in massive, peaceful, civil disobedience to take this nation back? They know it works, so why don't you? They're willing to put their life and their fortune and their, or lack thereof, and their sacred honor on the line for what they believe in. Where are you? We don't need another million-man march. We need a 25 million-man march. We need 25 million people to stack up and say, we're not leaving until this thing gets put back in its proper position, until this piece of paper called the Constitution is returned to its rightful place. And nothing else matters. Until you and all your corruption and your bribery and your lying and your misrepresentation and your elitism is removed from a leadership position. Oh, I get it. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be painful. It's going to be expensive. But guess what? The end result is everything else that you're sitting here worrying about losing by taking that action is going to be taken from you anyway. Any rights that you think you may have, any property you think you may have, any businesses that you think you may lose, any freedom of religion, any freedom of speech that you think that you're afraid to put on the line is already being taken from you. So ultimately, because of fear of loss, you're going to refuse to take action. And ultimately, that loss is going to occur anyway. and then it will be too late. I'm sorry to say that the people who have everything to gain and nothing to lose are the people who will win. Those who have something to lose will wait until everything that they have has been taken from them, and then you will be the people who have nothing to lose and everything to gain. The question is, will things have degraded so badly to that point that there is no hope of victory? Ask yourself that question. Ask yourself, what am I really doing here? And what do I need to do to make a difference? If you're not talking to your friends and your neighbors and your family, and it takes more than talk, you must organize and be a leader. Organize your church. Organize your local civic group. If you're a member of the VFW, organize the people that you work with. Why do you not recognize that the tactics that are being used against you are obviously very successful? In the last 25 years, they have completely changed our nation into something which is, quite frankly, unrecognizable to most of us. It's your fear. It's your fear of speaking out. It's your fear of being made a target, of something that you will lose. Well, that's okay. You can sit there and continue to follow that path, that thinking. But I am going to tell you this, and it will be no satisfaction to me on the day that this becomes, that the light goes off in your mind, that this was true. And that statement is simply this. What you are unwilling to put at risk today is going to be taken from you anyway. And then you will have no resources with which to put on the fight. That is the truth. And your call to action, if not heeded, will end with the result that ultimately everything that you think you have that's worthy of salvation, that's worthy of preservation, that's worthy of protection, is all going to be taken from you. If you don't see that coming, if you don't understand the implications of that, I don't know what to tell you to do. I mean, you're clearly not willing to acknowledge that which is right in front of you. Unfortunately, those who are willing to step up and do whatever it takes to preserve and defend and protect this nation, the real problem is we're all going to have to pay because the vast majority were unwilling to take a stand. And that's sad. Immigration is a symptom of the problem. I get it that there are moral implications of that. And I'm not cold about it. I'm not unfeeling about their situation. If I were living in their boots, I might even do the same thing. They're running and fleeing from that which has oppressed them and forced them to live in utter poverty. But I got to tell you, there's a way to go about things, and there's a way not to. If you want to resolve immigration, the way is not to sit here and just openly accept the 20 million. They tell you it's 11 or 12 million, but it's 25 million easily, and we all know it. And the way to do this is not to say, okay, we're going to give all 25 million of you a green card. And we're not going to do anything about sealing the border, which is how you all got here The way to solve it is to seal the border down and then open up and expand the immigration rolls, the legal way to do it. But the first thing you have to do is seal the border. Nothing can happen without a border sealed. Because irrespective of what you do, just like we went through this in the 80s with Reagan, he approved it, and the left said, listen, we promise we're gonna take care of all these situations as soon as you give amnesty to these illegals. And he did. Here we are again having the same conversation 20 some odd years later. And if we allow this to happen again, we'll be having this conversation again 10 years down the road. Except their arguments will be supported by even more people who, frankly, are not interested in your best interest, but in their own. We have the ability to fight now, while that fight will not be too costly to us and will not result in bloodshed. But if we won't fight now when we can do so and not with sure knowledge that we can win, and the sure knowledge that it will not be too costly to us, either as a nation or as individuals, I got to tell you, at some point it's going to get to the stage where we have to fight with all of the odds against us and barely an opportunity to survive it. As a nation, as individuals, as businesses, as families. Ultimately, as the police state continues to close that steel fist, and we're caught in the pincer, ultimately, we may even have to descend to the point where we say, all hope is lost, but I'm going to fight anyway because I don't want to live as a slave. Immigration can be solved, but it needs to be solved piecemeal, one piece at a time. And the first piece that needs to be solved is the border needs to be sealed. I don't want to hear we can't spend the money on it. We've been monitoring 160 straight linear miles between North and South Korea for the past 65 years, and we've had absolute success at it. Nothing gets through. Don't tell me we can't cover the difference from the Pacific to the Gulf. I don't believe it. There is a way to do it. We have literally hundreds of thousands of Army guys that are well trained for exactly this type of service. What we have is a failure of leadership and an unwillingness to follow and do that which is the sole function of our government and this president, to defend and protect the United States of America, to execute faithfully the laws of the United States. When the borders are sealed, we can figure out any number of methodologies to bring those people out of the shadows and give them a path by which they can stay. But until the border is sealed, we shouldn't even offer to have that discussion. Only the promise that there will be a solution. I'm all for resolving it, one way or the other. I'm for bringing them out and having them pay taxes and become productive members of society. I am not for giving them that privilege with no hope of stemming the tide of literally millions more following in their footsteps. I am not for giving them chain migration capabilities that say, well, now that you're green carded, we can allow the 11 members of your family to come over. That's inexcusable and unacceptable. Because then it won't be 11 million as they're telling us. The numbers that they're coming back with are in the 30 to 40 million range. And the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, it's not 11 million that are here illegally now. It's closer to 20 to 25 million. And when you take the chain migration for 20 million, suddenly you're talking about 50 or 60 or 70 million. That's, overwhelming. And we shouldn't wake up 10 years from now to find that we live on a continent that our founders and our fathers fought and died and bled for. And we've given it up to some globalist, elitist who is our ruler now instead of our leader. I'm not just talking about Obama. I'm talking about both the Republicans and the Democrats. I'm talking about from Lindsey Graham to Chuck Schumer. From John McCain to Nancy Pelosi and everybody in between. They consider themselves your better. And trust me, they're not doing this for the benefit of America. Nobody seems to have America's best interest at heart except us. And even half of us have been compromised. Speak out. And speak out now, even when your voice shakes in fear. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. Appreciate you riding with us today. Thank you very much. Join us on the web. You can find this show playing live every day, 8 to 10, on our website. We broadcast the show live there. You can just click on the button to watch the program. You can find us on our website at americasvoicenow.org. You can find us on Facebook by going to facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And you can find this and every other program that we do recorded and posted up on YouTube for anybody to watch at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. If you like this program or any aspect of it, if you got comments for me, good or bad, you can email me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. I do read all those emails personally, and I just don't want you to put me on a chain for nonsense. Please don't do that. But if you have a comment on a specific show, I want to hear from you. Mike@americasvoicenow.org. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning.